Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Core Brands podcast. Today, I'll be talking with my guest, Jenny Douglas, founder of A Good Moment Company. She is a professional organizer, but what she really does is to help people create calm, functional homes that support their lives. Jenny's work is deeply personal. After going through a 6-year IVF journey and a breast cancer diagnosis, she knows just how much our space can reflect what we're feeling inside. Now she helps others let go of the clutter, both physical and emotional, to make room for what really matters. We talk about her journey, why decluttering is never just about stuff, and how creating good moments at home can be truly life-changing. Let's dive in. Hi, Jenny. Welcome to the Core Brands podcast. How are you today?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me here. Delighted to be part of it.
I'm delighted to have you. So, you know how these episodes work. I always like to start with icebreaker question. And for you, this was kind of like a no-brainer. I have to ask you, if I open your kitchen junk drawer right now, what's the most odd thing I would find?
The most odd thing. Well, first of all, yeah, that is a brave question to ask a professional organizer, I think, because I think every home deserves a junk drawer, no matter what, even a professional organizer. There's no exception with me. I do have one in my kitchen, and it's actually one of those drawers that has like built-in sections.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat organized already, but in there's so many things, but the most odd thing, I think you would probably, let me think. Oh, chopsticks. Yeah, there you go. Chopsticks. I have a load of chopsticks in there. Yes, we don't eat that much Chinese food at home. But for whatever reason, over the years, we've got them maybe from takeaways and things like that. But also we went to Japan on holidays, so we got some lovely, beautiful ones in there. But yeah, they're actually still in their packaging and they're rarely used. But there's so much in there. And, what might be my odd might be kind of normal to you, depending on all the different kind of lifestyles we have. Like I have kind of run of the mill things. Like one section is my children's cutlery. All his bits and bobs are in there. And then I have things like elastic bands. There's a few pens. There's a few phone leads as well. I'm not sure if they're even all working. I have toothpicks. I have wine bottle stoppers. What else? I'm trying to think. Over on the left-hand side, I have all those funny shaped, I suppose you call them cutters, for children's sandwiches. So it makes their toast or their sandwich look like the shape of a dinosaur or whatever.
I bought those ones, never used them.
Yeah. I've started to do a little bit more. He's starting school in September, so there's going to be a few more of those kind of things in his lunchbox. Yeah, everything in there has its own space because it has a natural, as I say, built-in dividers. It is a mix of different things, but they're all things that are used, quite regularly, bar those chopsticks now, I'd say. But every once in a while I go in and I kind of reassess everything in there and I say, okay, are we still using this? Is this still working? Is it broken? Is this the right place for it? And, I do a bit of a rehoming or a recycling. But the chopsticks haven't gone far now, I must say. But everything else does get looked at quite regularly.
That's pretty amazing. So you have a junk drawer in your kitchen, but it's organized.
Yeah, and I do. I really truly believe every home needs one because I do truly believe that everything, needs its own space and its own home. But sometimes you just have a few small items, of something, and you're like, where do we put this? But yeah, the kitchen we have, when we got the kitchen, it actually was built in. So, and because of my personality and the fact that I am a professional organizer, I do like for everything to have its own little space. So
amazing.
Yeah, now if something doesn't fit the space, off it goes as well,
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. I have a junk drawer as well, but I have something a little bit more unique and messy that I'm not really proud to share, but I'm going to share just in case there's anyone that is the same as me.
No judgment.
No judgment. Do you know those IKEA boxes for napkins?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have one of those, and it's for the bigger napkins that I never buy. I buy the smaller size. So I have one of those boxes as a junk box.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
There's no lid or anything on top of it. It's just sitting on top of the microwave, and there's Sharpies, there's candles, there's a lighter, a few stickers, and a few corks, like the random odd stuff that doesn't need to be there.
But I think that's the thing. Like everybody needs a little space for all those little random items that don't, or have a home of their own or don't deserve a full place on their own. Because sometimes those things are transient as well, That could just be like a little temporary stop until, okay, maybe it gets a bit too full or something. Then you decide, okay, I'm going to start putting stuff in a different place where they truly belong. But I think it's perfectly fine. And I use that with my clients and office. I do have one of those boxes. I have another one actually on my kitchen table, and it's like a folder box. It's where when paperwork comes into our house straight
Yeah.
away, I put the paperwork in there, and then kind of usually every week I go, right, okay, let's find the proper home for this. Does this need to go to the office? Does this need to go for recycling? Do I need to fill this out and send it off somewhere? And I have a couple of those things. So I have my junk drawer, I have the folder on the kitchen table. Beside the couch, both myself and my husband have our own separate box for kind of random things that we want to keep
Oh,
downstairs,
that's interesting.
Yeah, and like it's kind of hidden away underneath, and kind of go, right, I know it's either in the junk drawer, that box on the table, or the box beside the
Oh, I
couch,
like that.
So
I
we kind
like,
of know, because like everything else in your bedroom, I don't like to keep things that are kind of generally for the home upstairs in the bedroom. I literally just keep my own personal kind of
yeah,
more beauty. I kind of make that a more of a sanctuary kind of place. So like leads and wires and things like that, they all stay in a different place. Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to have those kind of boxes, junk drawers. Every home needs them realistically. The thing you need to do is regularly go through them,
yeah,
rehome things or chuck things out or recycle things as well.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Jenny, I know we started already talking a little bit about your work, but I want to know what led you to start a Good Moment company. Tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah. So my story is, it kind of came from a real personal space, a kind of deeply personal space in my life. I've always been organized. Even as a child, I was lining up yogurts in the fridge. I'd help my mum unpack the shopping all the time. My bedroom was color coordinated. Everything had its own little space. I put all my stationery out, all my things. And that kind of continued on in my life throughout school, throughout college, and then even into the working world. And the types of jobs I had as well, you had to be highly organized in them or else you just get completely overwhelmed. And it's just part of my personality. I think I do get a little bit of both from both my parents in their own different ways. But in terms of actually launching the business, it was something I loved doing. And friends and family actually used to say to me a lot as well that, Jenny, this is something you could do. But what happened was I had two very emotional experiences, I suppose you could say. I went through 6 years of IVF and a lot of loss in relation to fertility. And then more recently, I went through a breast cancer diagnosis. And both of them changed a lot in my life for me. People say, did you have an epiphany or something like that? And it's not quite like that. It was a direction I was going anyway in my life, but how I saw time and space and basically, what really mattered in my life changed an awful lot on the back of those two experiences. And I kind of felt I was going through things in my life that were quite demanding of me. And I think in those times, your home can either be a source of stress for you or it can be a real sanctuary when you're going through, life experiences like that. And for me, creating a calm space in my home helped me bring calm to my mind. It also helped me bring control as well, because there were certain things in my life that were outside of my control
Yeah,
that I couldn't do, and it helped me bring control back into my life in some way.
that's just human nature, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, completely. And as I say, I've kind of always been that way inclined, but it was really heightened during the two of them. And so when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in early 2023, kind of springtime, I knew that I was going to be having surgery and treatment and whatnot. I had gone through the surgery and I knew what was ahead of me. So I had the surgery in and out in one day, and then I had a couple of weeks to recover from that. But then I was going into chemo and then radiation, and I also was doing this other target therapy drug as well. And I knew it was going to be a lot on my body. And I'm a quite active person. I'm go, go, go. I'm always doing
Yeah.
something, going somewhere and all the rest. And it was quite actually daunting. Like I wasn't scared of the treatment and all that, but I was actually scared of just being at home the whole time doing nothing. In theory, I wasn't sure how my body was going to react. Was it going to have good days and bad days and whatnot? And I really wanted to set up my home to be that kind of sanctuary for me. And I had been to a Mum's Talk event. I don't know if you've ever been to those Mum Talks events.
No, I've heard of them, but I've
Yeah,
never been to them.
yeah,
No.
I'd been to one earlier on in the year, and at that I saw a professional organizer, another professional organizer, Hazel from the Home Reset, speak, and I was like, wow, that's really, really interesting. This is what I love doing naturally. I do this all the time, and I never thought it could be a business idea. And what I did is I actually got her out to my house to help me kind of reset my home even get it ready for when I was starting. I actually had started treatment by the time she come out. Now, when she got here, she was like, Jenny, you don't really need me. And I was like, no, I'd love to change a few things up, because like that physically, I probably wasn't going to be doing as much. So the things that were down there in the ground, maybe let's raise them up. Let's change the location
Yeah.
places and definitely get rid of some clutter that wasn't needed. And yeah, it was really, in a way, it's obviously been life changing actually for me when you think about it in that way, because it just showed me how powerful an organized space or environment can be for someone like during a really overwhelming time. And I kind of went, God, this is amazing. And I was like, this is something I could do. Like I said, I didn't quite have an epiphany, but I did realize that I needed to slow down in life. The breast cancer diagnosis on the back of 6 years of IVF, having a child in the middle of that, having that child during COVID. My mother was unwell as well. There was so much going on in my life, and I felt I needed to slow down. And I think in one way, my body was telling me that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And I kind of went, I've always wanted to have my own business. I just never knew what it could be, but it kind of just lit a bit of a fire under me. So, and while I was doing treatment, as I say, my body wasn't great, but my brain was perfectly fine and I wanted to keep going. I was used to working every day. I was used to, doing things, strategizing, planning, everything to do with my work. And I felt really weird not doing that while I was going through treatment at the start. And I was watching TV and all the rest. And I was getting bored of that. Couldn't read books or focus that much as I thought in the early days of treatment as well. But then I just went, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity. You've time in your hands that you're never going to have
Yeah.
again. And I just started looking into the business idea of doing this. And I did so much research. I started working on my business plan. I started getting professional qualifications, studying for that and doing that during the time. And yeah, I kind of felt, okay, let's use this time productively. Yeah, there's, life is a bit weird at the moment and there's a lot going on, but I could use the time I have, to be more productive and kind of make a decision about where I wanted to do with life. And maybe this would give me the opportunity to be more flexible, to be there for my son and my husband more and my parents. And yeah, I just kind of felt it was the right direction for me to go. So I did that. I did all that research and business plan. I reached out, I joined women's networks. I
Yeah.
checked in my local Leo. I got my qualifications, and what I did then, I went through chemo and radiation, and then I was still going in every 3 weeks to hospital to get another drug, and then that finished last September in 2024, and that was the same week that I launched the business then. So I
Amazing.
launched it on the day after I finished my final treatment. And yeah, it was great. It's going so well so far. I'm not a year yet in business, but that's kind of the backstory about, why I did it and how it came to fore.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story of how you reinvented yourself through, all the loss and the pain and the challenging times you were going through, and you were able to turn that into something that's, giving you more freedom and better quality of life for you and for your family as well. I'm just curious to know, I assume that before all of this happened, you had like a normal job, so you were working
Yeah,
full time.
I worked in the charity sector for nearly 20 years. I did way back then marketing in college, and then I did a little bit of PR and kind of events and things like that, and a bit of marketing for some consumer businesses. But I've always kind of wanted to work in the charity sector. And
Yeah,
back then, like you're talking nearly 25 years. No, yeah, just over 20 years, 22, 23 years. It was really hard to get into the sector in Ireland, the charity sector. A lot of it was just people moving from different charities so to break into it was hard. But I did get in. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I did fundraising and marketing and a bit of comms for charities for a long time. And I kind of specialized in a certain area called individual giving within charities. And I worked for a fair few of the Irish charities, some Irish, some international, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Like I wasn't unhappy by any means. It wasn't like, oh, I need to get out of
yeah,
this or anything like that. I actually loved working for charities, and I, as I say, work for some big names, some smaller charities, some Irish, some overseas, and every different charity obviously had a different kind of sector or the type of people you were helping to raise money for. But yeah, as I say, I wasn't unhappy in that, but I just felt, having this time off because I didn't work during my treatment for breast cancer, but having this time off, just kind of, be nice to do something for me now, for me and my family, you know. I know that probably comes across a little bit selfish, but I was just like, this is the perfect opportunity to kind of, you know, do something for me, something that I've always
Yeah.
wanted to do that I've never had the time because, you know, working for charities it's hard. It's tough work.
Yeah.
It's long hours. It's constantly changing. You're always trying to invent new ways to raise funds. You're constantly working. Like my brain was just in overdrive the whole time. And then, as I say, prior to that, the last 6 years of working with charities, I was going through these fertility struggles as well. And we were trying to have a child and we could get pregnant, but we couldn't carry the pregnancies. And so there was a lot of loss and turmoil there as well. And then we decided to do IVF and, you know, that was a whole nother journey. And then we did have our beautiful son in 2020, but I had a very stressful 6 years of my life, you know. And then when I went back to work after maternity leave, you know, I changed as a person. I was now a mom. I had different responsibility. I wasn't able to maybe to work at the same level that I was
Yeah.
previously to having a child, just naturally, you know, as life goes. And then came the breast cancer diagnosis, and I just went, you know what? Yeah, I think it's time just to maybe, you know, quite sadly, back away from the charity sector for a period of time and give this a shot and see if it works, you know, because I've always wanted to have my own business and I love doing this. Like I do I think generally I just have a passion for helping people in whatever way that can be. And, you know, it used to be in the charity sector and now it's helping them in a different way by helping them, you know, get that calm and control and clarity back into their own homes and their own spaces as well.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly it. It's not just tidying up and decluttering, is pretty much bringing calm and well-being into people's spaces. Like I feel that 100%. If my house for some reason is more messy or if there's stuff around, I just cannot focus. I know I'm upset and I'm not feeling in control of anything, and until I get my hands on it and organize it, I don't stop. So I totally get that. So it's gonna be 1 year in September that you
It will
launched
be,
the
yeah.
business. Is there any challenges that you faced in this
Yes, no,
last
definitely.
month?
For sure, there's been lots of challenges. Like as I said, leaving a good job, a very good job, a
Yeah.
salary job, a pensionable job, that security, that was super scary, really, really scary. And like that, I was still rebuilding myself after everything that had happened, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So there was a lot going on, and but as I say, my perspective had changed a bit, and I just felt yeah, I wanted to be around more for my family. So that was a challenge because then, as you know well yourself, when you're starting a new business, you have to put so much time into it. And
Yeah.
the reason for doing this was so I could have that more flexibility. I could be around more for my child, my husband, and my parents. And you know, I craved that. But yet, when you start a business, you have to put every ounce of
It's like
your mind, your
24/7.
body, your time into
Yeah.
it to get it going. And so, but like you know, my new life motto is if not now, when? You know, if we don't do it now, when are we going to do it? So I just like, right, okay, you need to, it was a challenge trying to balance it all at the beginning to set the business up, to promote it, to get myself out there. But meanwhile, also being around as much as I wanted to be for my family. So I found that challenging at the start. I've got more into a groove now about it and I
Yeah.
understand how it's going and I'm able to plan my days a lot better. And that was frustrating being an organized person, having all these little random things crop up at the beginning that I hadn't planned for that you just don't know because I've never set a business up before. That I found kind of a bit frustrating and hard at times. But for me, it was about just finding that balance. And I feel now, you know, nearly a year in that I have that balance. But yeah, not having that 9 to 5 structure that you're used to. So, like, you know, I put the little fella down at night time. I go back and do a couple of hours of work. Or if he's at a sports event, I'll log on and do something, you know,
Yeah.
making sure that I'm upstairs here in my office and not working downstairs and getting distracted by, you know, the breakfast stuff still out or the few toys in the ground, or I know there's washing to be done over there. So trying to structure my day personally in order to build a business, that was definitely something. Also, I realized that while I understood a lot about setting up a business, I actually hadn't done a lot of the work before. And even in the previous roles I had, like I would have worked with the finance team, I would have worked with the social media and communications team, I would have worked with HR, I would have worked with all these people. You know, I used to manage quite a large team, so I understood a lot of all that stuff, but I never fully did it
Yeah.
myself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
So I was very much like, oh no, you're wearing 20 hats now. You're everything, you know? And that took a bit of time to get used to as well. And I definitely had to upskill a lot, which I find really interesting because I don't
Yeah.
like just for other people to do stuff and I don't fully understand it. I need to know, need to
Yeah.
understand it, and then it'd be like, okay, you can do this, you can do that. But now it was me doing everything. So I definitely had to upskill an awful lot that. But I also learned at the same time to ask for help. And I'm very lucky that I'm a part of a couple of networks, business networks. Some are women based only ones, some aren't. But I reached out to everybody and I got advice from as many people as I could. I joined as many webinars. I went to as many events as I could at the beginning to understand, what I needed to do for my business and how to go about it. And, even just helping make decisions on certain things to use when you had a choice of five to pick from, have you
Yeah.
used this? Have you worked with this? Whatever, so reaching out to people and getting advice and kind of mentorship, I suppose, as well. And I do actually have a business mentor as well, which is really good. And they've put me on a journey as well, both for me being a business person, but also my business too, which is really, really helpful. I'll give a shout out to Neve Ennis. She's absolutely amazing. But then also I outsource some things now. I've
Yeah.
realized actually that is not a good use of my time to spend, doing something that takes somebody else 1 hour. It's taking me
Yeah.
6 hours a week, So I've made the decision to outsource certain aspects of my business to ensure that it's done, in a timely fashion and done correctly.
That is
And
brilliant. Like,
no, it does
you're
cost me
not
money, but
even,
it's money well spent, it
yeah,
really is.
not even when you're in business and you're already outsourcing. I think that's brilliant. And that's a great advice for anyone that is starting a business, because I realized that really early as well. When I started my business, why would I spend time doing things that someone else is way more qualified to do? I can pay and it will free up time for me on my day to do the things that I'm actually skilled and qualified to be doing for my clients. And I think there is a lot of people holding on to that dear money, like, let's call things by its names. Oh, I can do this. I can do that. I can do it all. And then at the end of the day, there's overwhelm and stress and burnout. And it doesn't need to be like that.
Yeah, and I did kind of learn that quite quickly as well because the nature of my job is predominantly the difference. I have lots of different services, but the main one is in person decluttering and organization. Then I do it virtually online as well. I help people who are moving or selling their home, and I give talks and guest speaker and things like that. But like a lot of that is physical time with a client.
Yeah.
And so if I wouldn't say wasting time, but like it definitely, certain things like all the accounting and whatnot, I'd worked with finance teams before, but I'd never gone in and done the actual work. I would just get the report at the end. I'd understand it. I'd be able to analyze it, able to make decisions and forecasting and things like that. But the work that goes into behind producing that document is immense.
Oh,
And
yeah.
something like that, I was trying to do it myself and I could
I
do
tried
it.
as well.
Yeah.
I
And I
confess.
can do it, but it was just taking me forever, absolutely forever. And I was like, this is, I've lost a day of business here as a result of this, where if I was to give it to someone else, give them the data, they can whip the thing up in an hour. And yes, I do pay them, but then that frees me up to get more clients and to work with people more.
It's
I
amazing.
realized that early doors, I must say, I just kind of made that decision. Like even from setting up the business, like my branding, my social media, like I got people to help me with that straight off the bat because I was like, I've worked with people like that before. I know, as you say, they're qualified. They're the ones that do this day in, day out. I don't. I could have come up with stuff like that myself, but I just felt the impact that I wanted to make it from the very beginning of my business would be much better and way more far reaching if I had like my own support team behind me helping me in a and hopefully no mistakes would be made then as a result, but helping me, to get out there the way I want to present myself and therefore be with clients a lot sooner and a lot quicker. Yeah, outsourcing I think is a really, really important thing to look into. It's okay for you to learn about the particular subject and whatnot and understand it, but in terms of the doing of it, sometimes it's better to actually outsource to the more professional people than yourself.
That's really wise advice, Jenny. Thank you so much. Now I want to kind of like turn into a topic that I think it's quite misunderstood and a bit popular as well. People are very sentimental with the weirdest items and the most funny things possible. Like baby stuff and, wedding day stuff and, all these trinkets we keep in our houses. How do you manage that with your clients, the sentimental items? How do you kind of like manage the conversation and the emotions and kind of like not draw the line? Because I think that has to be up to the client to decide. But how is that
Yeah, well,
relationship with
every
items?
situation is different, you know.
Yeah,
You have some people who may just have a few sentimental items in a bigger space, you know, more with different type of clutter, or you might be just dealing straight with completely that's it, that kind of stuff only. So it really depends on the client. And part of my process is when you are looking into me and booking me is I will have a conversation with you, be that on phone, WhatsApp, or even in person, depending on the size of the project that we're going to be working on. And I always try and ascertain that kind of question straight off the bat, because you do have to walk a little bit differently into that person's house compared to someone who just wants help clearing out their shed, you know, for the
yeah,
summertime. They are two very different type of situations that you're walking in. So I always try and ascertain that first before I go in. And once I'm in there, yeah, it can be a very emotional journey for someone to go on. It's a journey that they've obviously don't want to do by themselves for whatever reason that may be, as in they may find it too hard to make those decisions. They're just really indecisive and don't know what to do,
yeah,
but they feel they need some kind of support there. And that's what I am. I'm supposed to be like a supportive friend in the scenario, but I am still that one kind of step removed that I can help you make decisions that you feel good about. Like there's no, that's like a misconception. People think I just come in and clear out the whole place and make it look like a, you know, minimalistic kind of house. And there's like no sentimental items anywhere, no, that's not the case. It's always about working with you and what works for you and your family and your home and your space. So for someone who's really struggling to make a decision about a sentimental item, it is a case of going, okay, well, how do you feel about this item? You know, are you holding on to it, one, potentially because it means something meaningful to you? That was a memory, that was a gift, whatever it may be. Is it you're holding on to it because you feel a bit guilt? This got given to you by somebody, but you don't really like it and you don't really want it
is
in
it
your
like
home.
therapy, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Are you holding on to it because you spent a lot of money on it, you know, and it was for a wedding. It's a hat, you know, that you had for your daughter's wedding, but you've never worn since, and you've no intentions of ever wearing it again. But it's sentimental, and you spent a lot of money on it. So there's so many different little scenarios in that piece alone. And it is about asking them those questions, you know, and it's about helping, being supportive and helping them to feel happy about their decision, because there's nothing worse than, I've done it many times myself actually over the years, you know, either recycling or rehoming stuff, you know, or even, you know, putting something in the dump and going, you know what, actually, I'm really annoyed I did that. I wish I held on to it,
I
you
hate
know.
that.
I
Yeah,
hate that feeling. And it doesn't happen that often to me, but it has happened and it happens to most people. So my way of working with someone is to help them make that decision that they feel good about, that they don't feel any kind of guilt, that they don't are, you know, not really upset by the decision they make. And it's just working with them, and every person's different. So yeah, we just sit down and we talk about the item. I ask them to explain what it is, what it means to them, where it came from, how does it make you feel, do you love it? If you didn't have it, would you go out and buy it? If you broke it, would you go out and replace it? Like all these kind of questions I ask them. And then as they're giving me their answers, they start to realize what the piece actually really truly means to them. And we were like, no, for sure, I'm keeping this, I'm holding on to this. Or they make, you know what? Yeah, if this broke, I wouldn't replace it. I'm just
yeah,
holding on to it because someone gave it to me, you know? And then we're like, okay, well, do you realize that someone else who might have this product could actually get way more use out of it? They might, like, one person's junk is another person's treasure
treasure. Yeah,
scenario. Yes, you got given it as a present for your wedding 40 years ago, but it's been in the box ever since, and it's been living in the attic in another box. You didn't even know you had it until we took it out, you know. And I was like, but that actually, you know, you could give that to a charity shop and somebody might buy that, and both the charity and the person are going to benefit from you letting go of something. So it is a process, you know. And as I say, there's no judgment, there's no overbearing, like, you need to chuck it out. Like, it's not like that. It's a process of sitting down, talking to them, asking them how it makes them feel, how it makes them feel if they were to have it, all these different questions. And as I say, as they're answering me, as we're talking, it becomes very clear to that person in that moment
yeah,
whether they want to hold on to it or not. And if they do want to hold on to it, then it's a case of, okay, well, are you going to put it back in that box? in the attic, or are you going to display it in your home, or are you going to bring it downstairs to use it, or if it's a piece of clothing, are you going to start wearing it? Because it's better then to take those things out of those boxes and actually put them in your home, so you remember you have them and you can
Yeah.
celebrate them and use them and wear them, whatever it may be, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm kind of like, I'm very good decluttering, for example, my clothes. So if I don't wear something for 3 or 4 months, if I haven't wear that piece of clothing for that period of time, I know I probably won't wear, unless it's something like a staple piece or
Yeah.
something that,
Or even seasonal, like it mightn't be the time of the year for you to wear that, so you'll hold on to it
yeah,
till the next season.
yeah. But if there's a summer dress I didn't wear for the past summer, I'm probably not going to wear again this summer. So I'm very good with that. But then the struggle, for example, and I'm sure many parents struggle with this as well, it's the toys and the sentimental items for kids, especially like I only have one daughter. So I feel like every time something goes, it's the
Same.
last time it goes.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to manage those emotions. So I do have like, and I should be better at this, but I have so many things kept in the attic in boxes.
I do too. And that's perfectly fine. Like, life, as I say, is not about not having those things in our
Yeah,
life for the rest of our lives just because the time has passed. Like, I have boxes in my attic behind me here and same thing, I have one son. So, we're going to do this one time and one time only.
yeah,
And it's a case of I have all his baby stuff. I even then have his first, into his next size of clothes. Actually, from each year age group, I have a
yeah.
one or two
Same
piece of
boxes
clothes.
for each
Yeah.
each.
Now I have really sentimental items in a beautiful, like these gift boxes that were
Yeah,
given to me, at the time of his birth. Beautiful gift boxes. I have them on the top of the wardrobe, and they're the real sentimental items, like his first hairbrush, his first haircut, all those kind of
yeah,
things, his first dodie, all that kind of stuff. And then in the attic, I do have a lot of clothes as well. Some of them I have given on to my cousin who has a little boy now, and I recycle them that way. But anything that's really deeply personal, for whatever reason, be it just the child's first thing or a gift that was given to me, I
yeah,
have held on to them and they're in my attic, and that's perfectly fine. And actually, we sold our family home. My mum and dad sold their family home. I don't know how long now, at least 15 years ago, I'd say now. And it was the family home where me and my three siblings, and mum and dad, all kind of grew up together. And me and my sister had to look after the attic when we were selling it and taking everything out. And up there, we found these big baskets that we didn't know our parents had of all our things growing up over the years. It was just one of those massive kind of hamper baskets,
yeah,
the wooden kind of ones, woodeny straw kind of ones. And in there was so much stuff that and stuff that, not that they were really sentimental to us at that time, but just stuff that over the years, mum and dad had been popping into this box.
yeah,
And I don't even know if they were doing it that intentionally for us, but when we were the time of selling your family home is an emotional time anyway. And me and my sister were up there and we found these boxes for both of us. And we were like, oh my God, isn't this gorgeous? Isn't this
precious.
amazing? And like, especially now, life has got so digital, it's so
Yeah,
online, and you have all these memories and photos kind of that way. These are like little teddies and little cards and all this kind of stuff. All my school reports, I didn't even know they had them. All my school reports, I was like, wow. And that was gorgeous to find that. As I say, it was just a lovely experience. And I go, I want to create that for my son as
yeah,
well. And
yeah,
so I think it's perfectly fine to have all those things. Now, excessive amounts, yes, maybe we need to call back on a certain amount of them, but it's perfectly fine to have those things. And I do that. And I still actually regularly go through them from time to time, because something that you felt in that moment that was super special and super important to keep, and oh my God, I couldn't live without this. And then you go back a year or two later when you're putting something else in, you go, what, actually, that's pretty dirty, or that's got a bit moldy,
yeah,
or that's just like, what is that? I can't remember, his first
yeah.
drawing or
Might
something like
change.
that. So at that point, you could maybe, take a few items out as well, just so, you're not completely overloading your attic just with, a certain type of thing. But yeah, no, I'm a big believer in holding on to things that mean importance to us. And there's no harm in doing that. It's how you organize them and categorize them
Yeah,
and hold on to them, I think, can be really powerful for you as well.
yeah, that makes sense. Is there any other tips you have for our listeners if they are thinking about, transforming their spaces and make more space?
Yeah,
Any
well, one thing I would like to mention is about the kind of the emotional side, first of all, of clutter. I think that's really, really important. We've touched on it a few times here, but it's a case of, I feel like sometimes clutter can carry stories. the thing we want to hold on to for a child. It's the jeans that we want to fit back into, the books that we said we're going to read, the toys we're keeping because maybe they will play with them one time again. All those maybe someday scenarios, like it is okay to have them. But every time you hold on to something that little bit too much, you get that kind of guilt, nostalgia, indecision. And clutter is just postponed decisions. So all you're doing by holding on to things that you don't really need is pushing the decision further down the line. And then they pile up and then they weigh on us really heavily. And then we have this kind of low level anxiety that we're bringing around with us every day. And then you see the clutter and then you know, it's in your vision. And then you have this inner critic giving out to yourself going, you still haven't done that. You still haven't done this. And that's very self-deprecating. And, you know, it's this constant kind of vicious circle, I think sometimes that can be happening. So we're always kind of scolding ourselves and we don't even realize that half the time. So it takes a toll on our brain. It really, really does. And you have that low level anxiety, as I say, and it's just there. So I think people need to realize it's not just about having nice Instagram perfect houses with decanted cereals and color rainbow books and all this kind of stuff. If that's what you want, perfect. But there is a real kind of deeper level to decluttering and organizing that can really help your emotional well-being, and it can also help your physical well-being, because you know, even my scenario where I was sick and I wasn't physically able to do that, there's a lot of clients I help out there who physically want to declutter, they prefer it that way, but they're struggling physically to do it themselves. So it's okay to kind of have that support network there for you. And that's what it's about. It's about realizing, like I was on my business, you know, what can I outsource? I think, you know, the way life is going now in 2025 and beyond is we all want to have a really good support network around us to help us get through our daily lives. And like, you know, we have that. We have cleaners, we have window washers, we have dry cleaners, we have people that childminders that come into home. We have all these other services that we outsource. And I really truly believe that professional organizing is going to be another one of those at the same level. Then, you know, it may take another year or two. The industry is very much growing in Ireland, but we will become part of those people's daily lives to help them. And that's what you have to do. You just have to reach out and ask, you know, like a bit of a sales pitch, but like you have to realize kind of, you know, there are people out there who can help you in so many different ways, and professional organizing is now one of those ways. And it will help you get rid of all that emotional declutter. It will help you get back time in your life that you may be struggling to have at the moment, let alone get to that pile of clutter over there or do this thing. It will give you more good moments in your life. So you're spending time on better things that give you more joy than, you know, decluttering a shed or going through your wardrobe or getting that kitchen presses, all those presses sorted. And I love doing this stuff. So let the professionals do it, in a sense, is what I'm saying, because there are people out there who get a lot of joy out of this. And they will, while they physically mightn't do the work, they'll get all the benefits naturally. They'll get all the joy. They'll get all those real good endorphins going in their body and go, God, look at this. This is making my life so much easier. No stress. I don't see the clutter. I feel better. I feel lighter. My house is calm. It's way more functional. All those positive feelings they will feel. And that will kind of keep the momentum going then. Because they might go, you know what, I'm going to tackle this room now, or I'm going to tackle that drawer. And that's one thing I would say is start with a drawer, you know, start super, super small. Don't go in and like tear up your whole room and take everything out and all the rest, because you're just going to be sitting there an hour later going, what have I done? And then it doesn't get finished. And then literally you're physically pushing it into the side of a wall just so you can get through the room. And next thing you know, it's 3 weeks later and you still haven't finished it. It can be really overwhelming, the process. And what I've kind of developed is my own process. Now, it's the same process a lot of other professional organizers would use, but I call it the Good Moment Core 4. And it's kind of a 4-stage process. But as I say, I wouldn't necessarily jump straight away into doing a whole room. I would do a section or a drawer or one cupboard, or, you know, something small like that, that makes it feel very manageable for you and that you can actually finish the job, get results, get the good feelings, and then that gives you more confidence, and then you'll build momentum after that. So the Good Moment Core 4 method is, first of all, is to clear out that drawer, clear out that cupboard, take literally everything out of it, and it gives you really good perspective of what you're dealing with. And I would place all those items on a separate area. So if you say you're working in your utility room downstairs, I would take everything out of the utility room and I put it on your kitchen table. Then the next thing you want to do is categorize everything. That's the second C. And so you put like-minded things together. So if it's your utility room, you'd put all your washing machine materials together. Then you may have some of your medicines together. Then you may have some of, I have a cat, so all our cat stuff is over in one section as well. So you categorize everything on that table. And what that does, it highlights duplicates of things you have, or even 3 or 4 or 10 similar items. And you might realize, okay, a couple of these are broken. That's out of date. Don't actually need 10 of these. We might donate some of these as well. And it also lets you know what you've forgotten about, like what was pushed in behind there you couldn't even see.
Yeah.
So, in that respect as well. And then I actually realize as well, actually, this is not something for utility room. How did this end up in here? So you kind of put that in a basket to be brought to the correct area that it should be stored. Then you decide, right, what am I going to cut out like that? You've gone through your duplicates, you've gone through the things you've found, and you decide, what are we keeping? What are we rehoming somewhere else in the house? What are we donating? What are we recycling? Or what do we actually need to bring to the dump itself? And you create those different piles. And like I always have, when I bring these to clients' houses, like actual bags, and I have these symbols and I stick them on. So it's very clear.
It's like a game.
It is. And that's the thing. You can get kids involved in this. It's actually a fun thing for them to do. Like, when I'm doing at home with my little fella, be it something for the house or even his toys and that, I set it all out and I go, right, I'm going to hand you this. You're going to put that in that bag, and it's a helping hand.
Yeah.
And it's also helping them to develop these abilities and understanding about it as well. Especially if you're, like, my son's birthday is coming up now in July. So before that, I'm going to go through all his toys. Some I'll go through with him, some I won't, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'll get him involved in the process so he understands why we're doing it, the benefits from it. And then also, like, it really does, having worked for charities for 20 years, like the idea of giving back and donating, and the reasons why there might be some children who don't have toys like this and blah, 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 we go through all that whole process with them. So he really enjoys doing that. He's really proud of doing that. But like that, it can be a bit of a game. And so when you're doing it even for yourself, think along those lines, have those bags set out, have everything ready, and all the things that you need to either bring to the dump or the recycling center or the charity shop, put them in the car straight away. And I say, if you can, don't put them in the boot, because you don't see them when they're in the boot. Put them in the back seat. So when you get in the car,
reading my mind.
Yeah. I always say that if you can avoid putting them in the boot, because they'll live in the boot for 6 months, don't worry, I've done it myself. But if they're in the back seat, they're going to get in the way. They're going to be awkward. So that will make you go and do what you need to do with them quicker, So that's a little tip there for sure. And so when you've decided and you've gone through everything that you've cut out now, you actually then contain everything. Now, as I say, this doesn't have to be Instagram, amazing, beautiful, blah, blah, blah. It can be if you want that. But if you're just working with a certain space and you just want to put things back in together, or you could get a small box that you've already had in the house, and you could put the things in that and then put them on the shelf or put them in the drawer or put them in the cupboard, whatever it may be. Or if you want to go out and buy new storage products, you can do that too. I do that for my clients. I can source things for them and bring them to on the day. But it really depends. Everybody's different. Everybody has different budgets. It's all about what makes you feel better and what works well for your home, what space you're dealing with. So those kind of 4 C's are the kind of the best way to go about doing this yourself at home. Clear out everything you have, categorize it, cut out, and then contain it. And there you go. You've got yourself a nice organized space with those kind of 4 small tips.
Amazing. That's really great tips.
A lot of information there, but that method really does work well if you follow it kind of step by step.
It's really gold. And as you said, if you can get the family involved, the kids, and everyone's on the same page, I think it can be really fun as well.
Yeah. And what I do is I always schedule them as well. I kind of go, like, every week I tackle an area or even a room in my house. Like, every week I go, you know what, that junk drawer or that press in the utility room or the front room has loads of board games and they've got a bit messy. The kids' toys, the wardrobes, whatever. Every week like on a weekend, I tackle one main thing and I use that process, but I schedule it in, because then if I don't do it, it gets pushed onto my next list. And I hate transferring one thing over from one list onto another day's list. Just the kind of the personality I am. And the more that happens, the more I get frustrated. So when you schedule in something, the reality is that it's going to get done quicker than if you don't schedule it at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any special space, your favorite space to declutter? for to organize?
Room-wise, I love doing utility rooms because you never know what you're going to find in there. Like the utility
I
room.
was suspecting that.
Yeah,
We were talking about utility room. I was like, Jenny must love utility
I
rooms.
love utility rooms. Like I'm really lucky. It's not everybody has one. I'm really lucky to have one.
I
I'm
don't have
like,
one.
I remember when we were moving into the house and we were getting work done on my house, and I was just so, I got a utility room. I was so happy
Yeah.
to have a utility room because there's so much, so much that's needed to do in a utility room. And if you don't have one, it takes up, obviously, eats into the other spaces in your home. So I love my utility room, and I've kind of designed it and laid it out well that works really, really well. And it's an overflow for our kitchen, but it also is obviously where we do our washing.
Yeah.
It's also where we keep our cat's litter tray. She's an indoor cat. Our mops, our Hoover, all those things. We keep some of our jackets. Like it's just so much going on in that small space. It's so multifunctional. And some people have big ones, some ones have small ones. So it's really always kind of like, okay, how are we going to organize this that makes it flow really well, makes it easy for everyone to get what they need to get, store as much as possible that isn't in the kitchen or the living room then instead. And yeah, I love a challenge of a good utility room because there's always just so much in there and so much to be done. And it's a space where usually it's predominantly women that hire me. They spend a huge amount of time, huge amount of time in there. For whatever reason, whatever it is you're doing in there, or whatever, products and stuff you're taking out to use elsewhere in the house, it's a really busy room, so it has to work well, it has to flow well. And yeah, I love working utility rooms. That's my favorite one, followed then by wardrobes, and I love kitchens as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Jenny, our time is coming close to the end, but I want to ask you what's next for A Good Moment company?
Yeah, well, we're still building the customers. As I say, it's not even a year yet. So I'm working with new clients and repeat clients. I'm also looking to start developing some ebooks as well that people can, how-to guides, things like that give a real detailed way of doing this at home if they want. I hope to run some webinars soon in the future as well. And also I've just launched there recently. Well, I've done a few, but I've put it out as an actual service that I do a lot of talks and workshops and guest speaking now. So, whether it's a wellness retreat, whether it's wellness in the workplace, if it's like a mother's club or a local library or a local committee, whatever it may be, I'm promoting myself now to be a guest speaker for them. So whether that's in person or on a podcast or a panel or just a one-on-one, whatever it may be, that's a service that I now offer.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out more of that, they can go to my website and all the information is there, all the different types of people I work with, what kind of subjects I can offer and talk about, like overcoming overwhelm, or how to streamline your mornings, or how to get yourself ready for the summertime back to school period for kids, what we can do to help ourselves, how to work with seasonal home resets, whatever it may be. There's so many different kind of topics, and obviously I have ones I've done before, but obviously I'll tailor and personalize anything for anybody as well. As I say, I can do them in person or online. They can be workshops, or they can be like just a straight up talking, whatever the person wants. So yeah, if they want to find out more, they can go to my website.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Not at all. Thanks for having me on. It was great to chat.
Thank you, and I wish you a great day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening, and remember, every brand journey starts with a single step. You can find the episode details in the description, and if you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a review, share with your friends, and follow Core Brands Podcast to be notified of new episodes. Until next time, stay inspired and keep creating.